The white roses were still fresh on the altar. Guests sat stiff and confused in their seats, whispering, fanning themselves with printed wedding programs that had Jasmine and Eric in gold letters across the front. Jasmine stood under the arch, wearing her dream gown, a soft mermaid dress with lace sleeves and a sweetheart neckline. But her hands were shaking. It had been over an hour. Eric didn't show up. Her bridesmaids had already checked the dressing room, the parking lot, the nearest hospital, even called a few of his old friends. He was nowhere. Then came the whispers. Some said he got cold feet. Others said maybe he was in an accident. Jasmine didn't know what to believe. Her father offered to escort her back inside, but she stood there, waiting, hoping. Her lips trembled as she smiled at the guests. She didn't want to cry, not in front of the cameras. Not yet. Then, a week later, someone spotted Jasmine at a quiet cafe in East Oakland. She wasn't alone. She was sitting across from Eric's older brother, Damien, and he was holding her hand. A staff member took a blurry photo. It made its way online, and everything changed. But what no one knew was that Jasmine hadn't told anyone the truth. Not yet. It all started months before the wedding. Jasmine Willis, 29, was a project manager at a local tech startup in San Francisco. She'd met Eric Hammond 3 years earlier during a charity basketball event. He was tall, charming, a high school coach by profession, and someone who made her laugh when things got too serious. Their relationship wasn't perfect, but they were solid. Or so she thought. The proposal happened in Lake Tahoe. Eric rented a cabin, cooked her favorite seafood pasta, and popped the question under a snow-covered tree. Jasmine cried for 10 straight minutes before saying yes. Everyone said they were a beautiful couple. Black love at its finest. Damien, Eric's older brother, had flown in from Atlanta for the engagement party. He was the opposite of Eric in many ways. Quieter, more intense, and more focused. He was an ex-cop turned private security specialist, and he always seemed like he was analyzing every room he walked into. At the engagement party, Jasmine noticed something strange. Damien barely looked at Eric. And Eric, well, he looked nervous every time Damien was near. At first, she thought it was just brother stuff. Sibling rivalry, maybe. She didn't push it. Planning the wedding kept her busy. Venue in Napa Valley. Dress from a boutique in LA, DJ, catering, guest list, all falling into place. But in the final month, she noticed Eric was distant. More secretive with his phone. Gone on late-night walks. Taking calls in the bathroom. Jasmine asked him, "Is everything okay?" Eric smiled like always. "Just wedding stress, babe. I got you. Don't worry." She wanted to believe him. Until one afternoon at the nail salon, Jasmine got a message on Instagram. From a burner account. The message read, "You sure you want to marry a man who's been lying to you since day one?" Attached was a picture. Eric, with another woman, holding hands at a gas station. Jasmine's heart dropped. She didn't recognize the woman, but the timestamp showed it was just 2 days ago. She didn't reply. She just sat there, staring at her nails, heart pounding, head spinning. When she got home that night, she didn't say anything. She wanted to wait. Watch. Test him. So she did. The following days, she pretended everything was normal. She smiled when he came home. She cooked his favorite meals. But every night, after he fell asleep, she checked his phone, his emails, his DMs. Nothing. It was clean. Too perfect. She knew Eric wasn't that smart when it came to hiding things, which meant someone helped him cover it, or someone was helping her find out the truth. The next morning, Jasmine found a note in her mailbox. No name, no address, just a white envelope with a single sheet inside. It said, "Check room 308 at the St. Vincent Hotel. Tomorrow, 7 p.m. That was it. No explanation. Jasmine didn't sleep that night. She wasn't the kind of woman to go snooping around dark hotels. But something in her gut told her she needed to go. So she did. She wore a hoodie and jeans. Parked 2 blocks away. Walked in like she belonged there. The St. Vincent Hotel was old, the kind of place business travelers used for one-night stops. The hallway smelled like bleach and air freshener. Her fingers shook as she turned the knob. Room 308 was unlocked. Inside, the lights were off. The curtains were half closed. A suitcase sat open on the bed. And in the corner of the room, on a small table, was a thick manila folder. Jasmine stepped in, closed the door, picked up the folder. Inside were photos. Dozens of them. Some printed. Some digital with timestamps. Most of them were of Eric. With different women. In different cities. Some went back years. There were receipts, hotel bookings, and one DNA test. A child. A son. She dropped the folder. Her knees buckled. She didn't know how long she sat there. Her breath coming in gasps. Her vision blurred. Her chest ached. That's when she heard the knock. 3 slow knocks on the door. She froze. Then a voice. "It's me. Open up." It was Damien. Jasmine opened the door, confused, scared, furious. "What is this?" she asked. Damien didn't answer. Instead, he stepped inside, closed the door behind him. "I tried to tell you. Months ago," he said. "But you wouldn't have believed me." She glared at him. "You set this up?" "No. I followed him." "Why? Why would you do this?" Damien looked her dead in the eye. "Because my brother isn't who you think he is. And he's not just cheating. He's dangerous." Jasmine backed away. "What are you saying?" Damien leaned against the wall, arms folded. "He's done things you don't know about. And if you don't walk away now, Jasmine, he won't let you go." She didn't respond. She couldn't. All she knew was that everything she thought she knew about Eric had just shattered. And Damien had been watching this whole time. The next day, Jasmine canceled her final dress fitting. She didn't return calls from the caterer, the photographer, or the wedding planner. She told no one. She didn't call her mother. Didn't text her friends. She just waited. Waited to see what Eric would do. And on the day of the wedding, she got her answer. Eric vanished. No note. No call. No goodbye. No one could find him. Not his friends. Not his co-workers. Not even the police. He just disappeared. And a week later, there she was, holding Damien's hand across the table. But she wasn't smiling. And he wasn't either. Then came the scream. From a woman outside the cafe. She had just looked inside her phone and seen something terrifying. The news alert read, "Body found in river identified as missing fiancé, Eric Hammond. Foul play suspected." Jasmine's world blurred around her. The cafe fell silent. All she could hear was the faint sound of the woman's gasp, the scrape of a chair, and her own heart thudding against her ribs. Eric's body. She looked up at Damien across the table. His jaw clenched. He had already seen the headline flash on the TV above the cafe bar. His eyes slowly moved back to her. "Let's go," he said quietly. They didn't speak a word on the way to the car. Jasmine's legs barely carried her. Her hands trembled as she buckled the seatbelt. The smell of fresh coffee clung to her dress, and her mind was still trapped in a swirl of disbelief. How could Eric be dead? Where had he gone? Who found him? And most of all, why? Damien didn't turn on the radio. He didn't speak until they reached her apartment. Once they stepped inside, she locked the door behind them. He pulled the blinds shut. Then Jasmine turned to him. "Did you know?" He blinked, as if the question burned. "No, I didn't." She searched his face, but found no cracks. "You said he was dangerous." "He was. But you didn't kill him?" Her voice broke slightly at the end. Damien didn't look away. No. She wanted to believe him. She needed to. But she also knew that Damien always operated in shadows. He was calm, calculating, the kind of man who would chase the truth until it bled. He sat on the edge of her couch, hands clasped. They said he was found near the Benicia Bridge, weighted down, wrapped in tarp. Jasmine covered her mouth. The image hit her like a punch. "Did you ever confront him? About the folder? About the women?" "No," Damien said. "I was still gathering more. You needed everything if you were going to leave him safely." She slumped into the chair across from him. Her body was stiff, like she was holding herself together by threads. "Do the police know about what he did?" she asked. He shook his head. "Not yet. Right now. All they see is a man who went missing and turned up dead. And now they'll come looking at us," she whispered. "I mean, we were seen together. Just now. At the cafe." Damien nodded slowly. "They'll question everyone. You. Me. His friends. But if we stay ahead of it, we can be honest. We have nothing to hide. Nothing to hide." But Jasmine wasn't so sure about that. Because something had changed since she saw that folder. She'd started seeing Eric differently. Not just as a liar, but as something darker. Something colder. And there were still things she hadn't told anyone. Not even Damien. That night, Jasmine didn't sleep. She just lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. Memories swirled in her mind. The late-night calls Eric wouldn't explain, the locked drawer in his study, the scars on his back he never talked about. Then came the memory she had almost pushed aside. 2 months before the wedding. A quiet Sunday morning. Jasmine had gone to pick up dry cleaning early. When she got back, she found Eric in the garage, yelling on the phone. His voice was angry. Mean. The kind of tone he never used with her. You think I won't come for you? You think just 'cause she's got a ring now I forgot what you did? There was a pause. Then, I'll burn everything down if you ever say my name. When she walked in, he hung up quickly and gave her a weak smile. Wrong number, he said. But it wasn't. She never found out who he was talking to. Until now. The police arrived at noon the next day. 2 officers. A black woman named Detective Harris, and a younger white man who barely said a word. They asked Jasmine to come down to the station for questioning. Not as a suspect, they said, just to help piece things together. Damien offered to come along. Jasmine agreed. At the station, everything smelled like paper and burnt coffee. Detective Harris led her into a small room with a recording device on the table. The walls were dull gray. The air was cold. Miss Willis, she began, we're very sorry for your loss. I understand this is a difficult time. Jasmine nodded. Harris flipped through a notebook. Your fiancé, Eric Hammond, was reported missing on Saturday, the day of your wedding? Yes. And when was the last time you saw him? Jasmine hesitated. Friday morning. He left to go meet with one of his groomsmen. Said they were going to grab suits and drinks. Do you remember which groomsman? Tony Martinez. Harris jotted that down. And you didn't hear from him again? No. The detective looked up. You didn't try to call? Jasmine's hands curled in her lap. Of course I did. I called him all day. Texted. I called Tony too. He said Eric never showed up. Harris gave a small nod. Miss Willis, did Eric ever mention being in any trouble? Trouble? Debt? Enemies? Illegal activity? Anything you might have brushed off at the time? Jasmine swallowed. No, she lied. The detective studied her for a moment, then flipped the notebook closed. If you remember anything, even small things, call me. Outside the station, Damien leaned against his car. They're fishing. Yeah, Jasmine said. And we're on the hook. 3 days later, the first rumor broke. A blogger who covered crime stories posted about the cafe sighting. They described Jasmine in detail. What she wore, what she ordered, how long she sat with Damien. The caption read, Bride's fiancé found dead in river. But was she already with his brother? The internet exploded. Some blamed her. Some blamed Damien. Some said it was karma. Others said it was murder. Jasmine shut off her phone. Friends stopped calling. Reporters knocked on her door. And then came the message. It was slipped under her apartment door in the middle of the night. Typed in bold letters. He wasn't the first. No name. No number. Just that one sentence. She ran to the hallway, but no one was there. She called Damien. He came immediately. When he saw the note, he stared at it in silence. Then he said, There's something I didn't tell you. Jasmine's skin prickled. What? Eric was being followed. For months. By a woman. I saw her twice. Always in the background. Always watching. Why didn't you say anything? Because she disappeared. I figured he handled it. But maybe she didn't let go. Jasmine stared down at the note again. Wasn't the first what? She looked up at Damien, her voice barely a whisper. Are there others? Damien's answer came in the form of a single nod. And then, before she could say another word, they both jumped at the sound of glass shattering. Someone had just thrown a rock through Jasmine's bedroom window. And taped to it was a photo of Eric. Smiling. Standing beside a woman. One Jasmine had never seen before. But Damien had. And his face went white as a sheet. That's her, he whispered. Jasmine's voice trembled. Who is she? He looked at her. And what he said next chilled her to the bone. She's the one who tried to kill me 5 years ago. Jasmine couldn't move. The words echoed in her ears like a bell trapped inside her skull. She tried to kill me. Damien had always been quiet about his past. But this was something different. His voice wasn't angry. It was tight, low, edged with fear. A fear Jasmine had never seen on his face before. He picked up the photograph taped to the broken glass. His fingers trembled slightly. This woman, he said, pointing to the blurred figure beside Eric. Her name is Sasha. Sasha Green. Real name might be something else now, but back then, she was going by Sasha. We met on a private security gig overseas. Short contract. She had intel access and a military background. Something happened. She crossed someone, maybe tried to sell classified data. I got assigned to report her. Jasmine sat down slowly, trying to breathe through the pressure in her chest. And she tried to kill you? She ambushed me in a hotel in Prague. I barely survived. She vanished before backup arrived. No one's seen her since. Or so I thought. Jasmine stared at the photo again. Eric was smiling, wide, confident, maybe even in love. But Sasha? Her smile didn't reach her eyes. It was hollow, watching, like she already knew how it would end. You think she killed Eric? Jasmine whispered. Damien nodded, slowly. Or she got someone else to. She was good at pulling strings. Jasmine looked at the shards of glass on her carpet, the photo still clenched in Damien's hand. Why would she be after him? Why now? Damien looked away. Maybe it's not just about him. Jasmine narrowed her eyes. You think it's about you? I burned a lot of bridges, Jasmine. But Sasha? She's not the kind who forgives. Maybe she found out Eric was my brother. Maybe she used him. Jasmine stood, pacing the room. You think Eric was working with her? Damien paused, as if weighing something heavy in his mind. Then he said, No, I think Eric loved her. That landed like a punch in Jasmine's gut. The lies. The distance. The weird behavior. The hotel room folder. Sasha wasn't just another woman. She was the woman. The one he kept hidden even better than the others. And now he was dead. The next morning, Jasmine and Damien drove to the police station. Not because they wanted to. Because they had to. Another letter had come. This time mailed to the station. It didn't have a return address. Inside was a copy of the same photo from the broken window. A message scrawled in red marker across the bottom. Look into who she really is. Before she disappears too. It was addressed to Detective Harris. By the time Jasmine and Damien arrived, Harris was already waiting. She looked more tired now. Dark circles under her eyes. Her usually neat ponytail slightly undone. Miss Willis. Mr. Hammond, she said flatly. I assume you saw the note. Jasmine nodded. Damien stayed silent. Harris tapped her pen against the folder. Whoever this woman is, we ran facial recognition. No match. Either she's off-grid or using layers of fake IDs. Damien folded his arms. She's dangerous. You've met her before? He nodded. Once. Overseas. She vanished after an attempted hit on my life. Harris raised an eyebrow. You didn't think to report that earlier? I didn't know it was connected until now. She stared him down for a long moment, then sighed and scribbled something into her notes. Your brother's phone was recovered near the shoreline. Data's encrypted. If he was communicating with this woman, it's locked up tight. Jasmine frowned. Can you get into it? Harris looked up. We're working on it. But if there's anything else you're not telling me, now's the time. Jasmine hesitated. Then she said, there was a folder. In a hotel room. Room 308. St. Vincent Hotel. It had photos. Receipts. Even a DNA test showing Eric had a child with someone else. Harris blinked. Where is it now? I don't know. Jasmine said. We left it there. Harris jotted something down again. We'll check with the hotel. Anything else? Damien's voice cut in. She's not done. That made Harris pause. What do you mean? He looked her dead in the eye. If Sasha killed Eric, it wasn't to tie up loose ends. It was to send a message. And then, as if summoned by the weight of his words, the station lights flickered. A moment later, the front desk officer rushed in. Detective Harris, he said, breathless. There's a call for you. Anonymous. Said it was urgent. Harris looked annoyed. Did they say a name? He shook his head. Just said one word. Jasmine. The detective's face darkened. She picked up the receiver on the wall and spoke into it. Jasmine and Damien waited, their nerves humming. After 30 seconds, Harris slowly hung up. Then she turned to them, face pale. She said, tell Jasmine she should have stayed loyal. The second brother always breaks faster. Jasmine froze. Second brother? But Damien already understood. His fists clenched. She's coming for me next. That night, Jasmine refused to leave Damien's side. They stayed at a high-rise hotel in downtown Oakland, checked in under false names. Damien locked his gun in the nightstand drawer. Jasmine kept her phone off. The rain tapped against the windows, like soft fingers trying to get in. Jasmine curled up on the couch in a hoodie, blanket around her shoulders. Do you really think she killed him? She asked again. Damien didn't answer immediately. I think. Eric thought he could outsmart her. Maybe he thought love would save him. Maybe he thought she'd protect him. And instead, Damien exhaled. She used him, got close, took what she wanted, then vanished. Same thing she tried with me. Jasmine swallowed hard. But she didn't kill you. Damien turned to her, face unreadable. She almost did. They fell into silence again, until Jasmine asked, What if I was never supposed to find out? What if all of this, me marrying Eric, the hotel folder, the rock through the window, it was all part of something bigger. Damien looked at her carefully. You mean like a setup? Jasmine nodded slowly. Yeah, like someone wanted me to find the truth. But not too early. Just right before it was too late. He tilted his head. You think Sasha wanted you to know? Or someone working with her? Someone who wanted Eric gone, but also wanted me to suffer. Damien leaned forward. Why you? Jasmine looked down at her hands. I don't know. But what if I was never the bride? What if I was the bait? Just then, a knock came at the hotel door. 3 slow knocks. Exactly like the ones she remembered from room 308. Damien pulled his gun from the drawer. Jasmine froze. He stepped to the peephole, then turned, eyes sharp. No one's there. He opened the door. Empty hallway. But lying on the floor just outside was a single wedding invitation. Jasmine and Eric, forever begins today. And on the back, in red ink. Forever did begin. It just didn't end how you thought. Damien turned to Jasmine. But she was already running to the bathroom. Because she had just remembered something. Something she hadn't told anyone. 2 nights before the wedding, she had woken up in the middle of the night. And Eric wasn't in bed. She heard him whispering into the phone in the hallway. And she remembered one word that he kept repeating. A name. A name she hadn't thought about until now. Sasha. But the last thing she heard him say, before slipping back into the bedroom like nothing happened, was, don't worry. Jasmine doesn't suspect a thing. The bathroom light flickered overhead as Jasmine gripped the edges of the sink. Her breath came in shallow gasps. The name echoed in her head like a scream in a tunnel. Sasha. He'd said her name. Eric had known her. She wasn't just another woman. She wasn't a stalker. She wasn't a ghost from Damien's past. She was part of their lives. From the very beginning. And somehow, she had gotten close enough to Eric to convince him to lie. To plan something. To use Jasmine. The sink's cold porcelain steadied her for a moment. She stared at her reflection. Her face was pale, her eyes wide with confusion, fear, and now something else. Anger. Damien's voice from the living room snapped her back. Jasmine. You okay? She opened the door. I remembered something. She told him. About hearing Eric say Sasha's name. About the way he said Jasmine doesn't suspect a thing. Damien sat down hard on the bed, processing it. He was in on something, she said. He knew Sasha. He trusted her. Maybe even loved her. But he was still going to marry me. So what was the plan? Damien ran his hand down his face. What if you were the cover? The perfect fiancé. Smart, well-liked, clean record. Maybe you were his shield while he was doing something darker. Jasmine frowned. Like what? I don't know. But Sasha wouldn't attach herself to anyone who didn't offer something valuable. Then, suddenly, Damien stood and went to his duffel bag. He pulled out a small, black flash drive. What's that? Jasmine asked. Insurance, he muttered. He plugged it into his laptop. Lines of files popped up on screen. Surveillance footage. Reports. Old digital case notes. She once used a burner network out of Northern California. I tracked it after Prague, just in case she resurfaced. He opened a file marked, subject, _alias, Sasha. Dozens of names filled the screen. Some crossed out. Others tagged with dates and photos. It looked like a kill list. And Eric Hammond's name was at the very bottom, highlighted in red. Jasmine's blood ran cold. Damien said she was keeping track of everyone she got close to. Jasmine stared at the screen. He wasn't her partner. He was her next target. Which means, Damien said grimly, you were probably the step before the final blow. Make him fall in love. Trap him with the wedding. Use you to keep his world tidy. Then kill him once he tried to pull away. Jasmine shivered. But why frame me? Why drag me in now? Because you saw too much, Damien said. And now she's cleaning up. The next morning, everything fell apart. The police showed up at Jasmine's apartment with a warrant. The neighbors watched from their windows as officers boxed up her laptop, phone, and any documents connected to Eric. Damien tried to intervene, but Harris herself led the team. What is this? Jasmine asked as she opened the door. Harris held up a photo. It was the one from the cafe, her and Damien holding hands. We traced the anonymous note that came into the station, Harris said. The one warning us about who Jasmine really is. It was sent from a public library an hour before your visit with Mr. Hammond. Jasmine's brows knitted. So, the sender logged in using your email address. What? Jasmine gasped. That's not possible. It's not proof of guilt, Harris cut in, her voice softer. But it's enough for us to start pulling more threads. Damien stepped forward. This is ridiculous. Someone's framing her. You've seen the pattern. We've seen a lot of things, Harris replied coolly. Like the fact that Eric recently took out a life insurance policy, with Jasmine listed as the only beneficiary. Jasmine's heart sank. I didn't know that. Harris locked eyes with her. You'd be surprised what people don't know. Until it's too late. The officers finished up, and Jasmine and Damien were left standing in the hallway, the door wide open behind them like a gaping wound. Eric was setting me up, Jasmine whispered. He took out insurance, talked to Sasha, hid a child, kept secrets, then disappeared on our wedding day. Damien's jaw tightened. He wasn't planning to show up. You weren't supposed to get this far. Something changed. He backed out, or tried to, and Sasha killed him. Jasmine sat on the couch, staring at her bare hands. She hadn't worn her engagement ring since the day he disappeared. It now felt like a joke, a prop in a game she didn't even know she was playing. Then she remembered the folder. The hotel, she said suddenly. We need to go back to room 308. Maybe the folder is still there. Damien nodded. Let's go. They arrived at the St. Vincent Hotel just before sunset. The lobby was quiet. The clerk barely looked up as they walked past the desk. Damien slipped him a $50 and said they left something in the room by accident. He gave them the key. Room 308 hadn't been cleaned since that night. The curtains were still drawn halfway. The air smelled musty. But the table where the folder had once sat was empty now. Jasmine searched the drawers, the trash, even lifted the bed. Nothing. Until Damien checked the vent. Inside was a folded paper. He pulled it out carefully. On it were 3 words, printed in thick black marker. I'm not done. Attached to the back was a photo. Jasmine, asleep in bed. Taken from inside her apartment. Her skin turned to ice. Damien clenched the photo. She's watching us. Suddenly, his phone rang. No number. He hesitated, then answered. Hello. A woman's voice purred through the line. Miss me, Damien? His hand froze. Jasmine saw the blood drain from his face. Sasha, he said quietly. You should have stayed in Prague, she said. You were more interesting when you bled. Jasmine moved closer, heart pounding. What do you want? Damien demanded. I want Jasmine, Sasha said. I want her to understand what love costs. What it means to lose everything for a lie. Damien growled. If you touch her. Sasha laughed, cold and amused. You still think this is about love? You still think this is about him? She went silent for a moment. Then, come to the warehouse. Corner of 12th and Jackson. Bring her, or I'll bring everyone else. Click. The line went dead. Jasmine looked at Damien. And in that moment, they both understood. This wasn't just about Eric anymore. Sasha had made it personal. And whatever was waiting at that warehouse would change everything. The warehouse on 12th and Jackson was an old, forgotten structure surrounded by chain-link fencing and broken streetlights. The kind of place where silence had weight, where even the wind felt afraid to whisper. It used to be a shipping hub years ago, but now it stood rotting in the corner of East Oakland, waiting to become a crime scene again. Jasmine stepped out of the car with Damien by her side. The sun had dipped below the horizon. Orange light faded into dark blue shadows. She could hear the hum of distant traffic, but here, it was too quiet, too still. Damien handed her a small walkie-talkie. Keep this close. I don't know what we're walking into. What if it's a trap? She asked, gripping it tightly. It is, he said, but I've been in worse. They entered through a side door, one that looked like it had been forced open recently. Inside, the warehouse smelled like rust and wet cement. Wooden crates were scattered around, and the single overhead bulb flickered above like a heartbeat. Then she appeared, from behind one of the crates. Sasha. She wore a long dark coat, her black hair tied up in a tight bun. Her face looked calm, almost serene, but her eyes gleamed with danger. Jasmine immediately felt her stomach twist. She looked normal, beautiful even, but every instinct screamed, this woman is not safe. Well, Sasha said softly, stepping into the light. Look at you, still holding hands like it matters. Damien stepped in front of Jasmine. This ends now. Sasha smiled. Oh, I hope not. I just got started. She pulled a small device from her coat, a remote. She held it up like a trophy. See this? One button, and everything I've collected gets sent to every news outlet, police server, and federal watch list from here to New York. Every scandal, every file, Eric's dirty secrets, your lies, Damien. and even a few surprises Jasmine didn't know about herself. Jasmine narrowed her eyes. Why are you doing this? Sasha's smile faded. Because I loved him. I really did. And he chose you. That made Jasmine's heart skip. Eric chose me? Sasha's voice cracked. He was going to run away. With me. We had a plan. Until he backed out. Said he wanted to try doing things the right way. Her lips curled into disgust. He told me he still loved you. That he wanted a clean slate. Jasmine felt like the floor had disappeared. He lied to both of us, Sasha went on. But you? You were the final knife. You were the life he didn't deserve. So I took him out of it. Damien stepped forward. Put the remote down. You're not walking out of here. Sasha laughed, wild and sharp. You think I care? I've been dead since Prague. She pulled a small handgun from her coat pocket and aimed it at Damien. Let's make this quick, she whispered. But Jasmine didn't wait. She lunged forward. Not at Sasha. At a nearby crate, knocking it over with all her strength. The crash distracted Sasha just long enough. Damien struck. One clean move. He twisted her arm, the gun falling to the floor. Sasha spun, kicked, and they both went down hard, grappling, fists flying. Jasmine scrambled for the gun. But Sasha was fast, too fast. She elbowed Damien across the jaw, grabbed the remote, and took off toward the far exit. Jasmine chased her. They burst through the side door and into the open night. The remote still in Sasha's hand. She reached a car parked across the street. But just as she opened the door, police sirens wailed from every direction. Squad cars flooded the alley. Lights lit up the warehouse like a stage. Sasha froze, then slowly raised her hands. Detective Harris stepped out of the first vehicle. Drop it, she commanded. Sasha dropped the remote and knelt. Officers swarmed her. Damien emerged from the warehouse, bruised but standing. Jasmine stood frozen as Sasha was cuffed, her face still calm, like she'd known it would end this way all along. 3 weeks later, the headlines had changed. Ex-spy turned killer captured in Oakland showdown. Dead fiancé was part of secret crime ring. Bride cleared of all charges. Jasmine Willis breaks silence. I survived the lie. The folder from room 308 had been traced back to an old storage locker Eric paid for in cash. Inside were ledgers, burner phones, and records of Sasha's work with a secretive black market intel ring. Eric had been the courier, Sasha the handler. But Jasmine? She was never part of the plan. She was the alibi, the shield, the innocence that made Eric untouchable. Until he fell for her for real. And tried to leave. He almost made it. Almost. Today, Jasmine sat in the cafe where it had all begun, the one where she'd first been spotted holding Damien's hand. This time, she was smiling. Damien sat across from her, still healing, still watchful, but softer now. More open. They hadn't put a label on anything. They didn't have to. The sun poured through the windows. Her hands were no longer shaking. Her heart, finally steady. She had been lied to, betrayed, hunted, but she had survived. Damien reached across the table and took her hand gently. You okay? He asked. Jasmine nodded. I'm finally free. Then her phone buzzed. A message from a blocked number. She froze. Damien noticed. She opened it. It was just a photo. Of a river. No words. No threats. Just a reminder that sometimes the past doesn't stay buried. But Jasmine only smiled, locked her phone, and said, let it come. Because she had already lived through the worst day of her life. And she came out stronger.